In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can calculate sun path and shadows within the Ecotect environment using the sun path diagram and the solar exposure tool within Ecotect. I have now opened the Ecotect environment. As you might know, one way to look at shadows or shadow conditions within Ecotect is to look at them visually, and you can do that in the Visualize tab or the 3D editor, where you can look at them in a plan view. What I'm going to show in this video is two different means to really calculate the impact of this new envelopment on the existing facades here. One of the intent from the building owner was that we couldn't make a large impact shading these buildings with this new envelopment. So a great way to just easily calculate and figure out the impact of this new building or the building's relation to itself is to use two different tools within Ecotect. Go to calculate and either use the sun path diagram or the solar exposure. So the first thing I'll do, I'll look at my sun path diagram that will also help you to understand what overshadowing is and how Ecotect is really working. So let's go to the 3D editor and we just mark out this facade and we go to calculate and say sun path diagram, and so what I'm doing here is that I can now calculate the amount of shading for this specific element down here. So just say calculate overshading percentage, and I can also look at solar stress, which really is kind of the opposite. So I'm calculating now the shading. So now I'm able to really visually see when this facade in the existing building or context is shading and how we impact it with the new envelopment here. So so now I'm able to really drag around, and you will see that these two diagrams really interact. So if I'm going down here, you'll see that for this period here, these new buildings from 10:30 to 1st of January, this is not that important because the sun is quite low in January. So, but just to see here that for that period, these elements here will create overshadowing for this specific facade, and here it won't impact it. So this is just a great way that you can really understand overshadowing, and you can also press Show in Visualize tab, which enables you to really look at it to see the sun angle and how this is really calculated. You can also go in and you can calculate, for example, solar stress to see at what time this specific element down here will have the largest amount of radiation, and to really compare these two graphs is essential to understand what kind of shading, etc., that you should apply on your project. So this is really just one way that you can calculate the amount of shading or the impact of the new envelopment on existing context or the envelopment in relation to itself. So I just remember to go up and say I don't want to see this in my visual tab anymore, and just to close this down. And one other thing that you can do is to just quickly calculate is that you can, for example, you could go and you turn on your new envelopment. You can mark the facade you want to calculate, go to calculate and say calculate solar exposure. And here you're able to look at a single day when this is the time period where it's shaded, and this is the area, the time span where you have some kind of, or you're getting direct sun and different kinds of light or heat to the existing facade. So you can take this out to a report, just right click and say generate report, and I'm pulling this out to Excel and just open up in Excel, and that means that I can go in and look at when is this shaded and make a percentage. And then when I go back and I turn on my new building and I say calculate again or update my shading, that will take some time, but then I can go back and I can really calculate the impact on the new envelopment. You're also able to look at average daily to see it in a diagram like this, or to look at the shading like this. So you really have multiple ways to just quickly go in and look at it. And often I will look at a single day and then going in searching for the hottest day, for example, dimensioning and shading to the style or whatever I want to look at. So this is really two really helpful tools to calculate the amount of shading and radiation on your surfaces, and to really understand and visualize how or what overshadowing really means to existing buildings and your new envelopment.